Hello traders, this is a DAX recap video for Thursday, May the 8th. Morning notes are there, and behind it I have DAX index and the DAX futures daily charts. So first of all, we know that morning notes are done with the yellow shades already, while these blue ones are the things that I'm emphasizing for the recap video. So same as yesterday, as long as above these three supports, meaning these three here on daily charts, that we should consider DAX as a strong market and basically neutral bullish or buy the dip bias on large time frames, while on intraday level, intraday bias, we were changing from neutral to neutral bullish. The difference is when you have a neutral bullish bias both on large and small time frames, that means that you're having a time frame alignment, basically that trend is working for you, and that buying dips is going to be something which is a lower risk proposal. And also when we go intraday bias neutral, that means we are ready to take both short and long, but we should give more weight to the reading of real-time market generated information. And in both cases, no matter that intraday bias is neutral or neutral bullish, obviously there can be some sell setups, but the difference is that when we are having a neutral bullish, meaning by the dip bias, you can also avoid completely sell setups, and you should approach to them differently than to long setups. That can be done with the smaller lots, that can be done with the smaller stops, and to be more aggressive when you're taking counter trend trades versus the trend trades with the trend, in this case obviously longs. So this is a bigger picture on DAX. It is unchanged. DAX hit the all-time high zone in the after hours for so far only a zone-to-zone move, and other market that we are following all the time, dominantly for correlation purposes, but also for traders that are trading US markets, is obviously S&P. And S&P was up to today in a 5-day balance. This is the 6th day inside the balance, and look where this market currently is. It is going to be important where this candle closes. That's going to give some context for tomorrow. So far we are having only a tail above, and the eye is here in this space between these important levels 5,700 and 5,775, with a daily 200 in between. That is why eye is there. Back to DAX. On DAX, eyes on the all-time high, and here on this area where we have supports number 2 and number 3, meaning the gap and Tuesday low. Last week, the most important day of the week was Wednesday, in which we had neutral bias, and market basically back tested the support consisting of the lower edge of a multi-week range, and daily 50 went higher, while on Tuesday we got yet another V reversal when market pushed lower, tested support, and in this case also midpoint of the previous multi-week balance. So long story short, on a DAX, bigger picture is unchanged, and we shall see where futures are going to end for this session. Let's go down on smaller time frames. As we can see, this is a 5-minute CFD chart. Market respected pretty well the zones today, and the after hours and pre-market ramp, which was described here in the upper part, was 250 points of a move, and that move was news driven on Powell in the after hours session yesterday and on Trump in the pre-market session. So when we have that kind of extended up moves in the sessions of lower volume and lower liquidity, this is always a thing to think about potential pullback, and how that kind of pullback can easily be half of that ramp. That is the thing that a market can easily do. Now, what if market doesn't retrace half? What if market retraces just a bit of it? What if, you know, that retrace is just something that is shallow and they're going higher? It obviously would be then a confirmation of that strength, under quotes, strength that they showed in after hours and in the pre-market. Why under quotes? Because again, moves up and down are much more easier to be, you know, done in those kind of sessions. This market retraced less than half. Okay, so what if they retrace, for example, all of that after hours and pre-market ramp and go below the origin of that entire move? Well, that would obviously would be bearish. But in our case, what this market retraced out of that push, you see this here. This is the move on Powell. It was the initial dip, but then up and then this. All of this was after hours and pre-market ramp, while they retraced just this part here. And that retracement started at 7 a.m. for a decent zone-to-zone short, with the idea that hey, market is here, right at the previous day regular trading hour high, which would be this here. Because you see this spike is from 8 a.m. That's pre-market session. This is pre-market session as well. Well, this is already 10 a.m. 1 hour and 10 minutes after etc. open. So this was regular trading hour high, and market was around that level early in the morning, and then they pushed lower. So when we are observing CFD chart, and when you think about okay, where are the RTH values, you can always obviously go to the index chart on smaller time frames, so DAX etc. index, go on small time frames, or you can also use futures for that. And when you are on futures, so this is futures chart, it is a bit different to CFDs regarding the zones. Why? Because today during the session, quote, difference between futures and index went down. We started the session and zones were adjusted to plus 115, while now it's around 107 or 110. So the zones now should be a bit lower. So on futures, it looks like the main resistance was just tagged, just licked the zone, while they actually pushed a few points inside. But what can you do here? How can you observe only regular trading hours? You can do that by going here. You see this. Now this is a bit of counterintuitive thing here. Here on futures, on TradingView, they are using 3 types of sessions, while they call regular trading hours on DAX futures. Actually, this is electronic trading hours. This is everything, you know, everything. Pre-market session, after hours, regular trading hours on index, everything is here. But when you click, for example, here, etc. trading hours, then you're going to get just index values. You see that this is from 9 a.m. up to the close, up to 5:30. And also there is another variation, Frankfurt trading hours, which will go from 8. You see that the end of the previous session is at 10 p.m. Then they're starting the Frankfurt session from 8, and it goes up to 10. So Frankfurt session is going to be 8 a.m. 10 p.m. etc. trading hours is just regular trading hours on the index, while this, which they are calling regular trading hours, is actually everything on futures. So if you want to observe, okay, where is that, for example, previous day regular trading hour high, you can go etc. trading hours, and then you're going to see, this is this 10:05 and this here. And you see that here there was that pullback which I'm talking about, and that was our first, basically our first trading setup. And here, as we can see, market made several moves up and down, but between 2 zones, and it is very important. Now pre-market range was wide, 164 points, and in wide pre-market ranges, midpoint can play a role as well, being a target or entry point. And what we know from experience is when market is strong, those pullbacks, when market dives back inside the pre-market range, can die at the midpoint, and basically buyers can act from the midpoint. Today we had basically a cluster of supports there. We had a confluence, and that confluence was zone, opening level, and midpoint. And that is enough, Zone is strengthened with the opening level and with the pre-market midpoint. You have 3-in-1 there. While on some other zones, you have just a zone without any other things there. So again, here at the zone, we had pre-market midpoint and we had the opening level, and it was written here about wide pre-market ranges, and also it was written if market makes a real break over pre-market high, then buyers should be on the first pullback to the breakout point. That first task for the buy side was to regain this zone, which they did very early in the session. So again, they showed early strength by two things. First thing is that out of this move made in the lower volume and lower liquidity sessions, they retraced just a bit of it. So that's strength, they held here. And the second thing was that they not only held here, but they regained this zone, because below the zone there was really nothing much. No downside follow through. Follow through is very important. Okay, so this pullback was made at 9:35, and where that pullback went, again, just to the zone, open, and pre-market midpoint, and they held. They held there, and here market already started to hold and to slowly again make higher lows, because this was that after our pullback on Powell, push higher, then this here is pre-market low, then this is again higher low, and we got here a RTH reaction also, so a reaction in the regular standing hours from the previous day regular standing hour high, which is this here, from which market went down in the pre-market session, then went down in the RTH session, and now from the position of higher low, they're going up toward the same thing for the third time in a row. So what do you think what's going to happen there? Only two things can happen. They can either make marginal higher high, go down below the pre-market high, and that would be it, for example, and then down, or they're making a real breakout, and real breakout means they are going to at least tag the first higher zone, which was this one, and then buyers on a first pullback after a breakout, and that is this here. So that is what happened, like it was written in the morning notes. If they are going to make a real break, then expect buyers on the first pullback. And I think this, buying this kind of pullback is pretty straightforward. While these zones, as we can see, we had sell reactions from them. Bias was neutral. However, when buyers or market shows strength by holding, by having buy activity on the first pullback, then you can also skip this. You don't really need to trade every single rotation, and if you want to trade these rotations from sell side, then you can also go smaller from here while bigger on the longs, because after all, large time frame bias neutral, bullish. Intraday bias was neutral, but strength was shown early. 9:45, also good timing. There is also a video about timing in the educational page of the website, together with the PDF file explaining all of those timings. And 9:45, everything around 9:30 is usual timing for twists and turns, in our case for regular trading hour low or pullback low. Next, as said, small reactions from the zones, and then regaining the zone acting here as resistance, here as support. Basically we got the break above this zone because market tagged the upper one. So when we are talking about breaks of zones, it is not enough for market just to poke above the zone for 10, 15, 20 points. It has to at least tag the next zone, and it would be better that that next zone is also broken. In this case, it wasn't broken, and we got here a reaction. And then what market did here, they made the balance, because most important scheduled data for today was US unemployment. So US unemployment nowadays is something that is pretty important. Market are waiting usually for it, and all of this was waiting for US unemployment data. Now think about it. Why would anybody risk at this location, which is just on a spitting distance to the all-time high, to push hard up or down in front of a news that can make at least some knee-jerk reactions? And it did. All markets went down on it, and that move is this here. This is the start of the move, 2:40 p.m. So basically, we had a technical balance breakdown on that kind of news. This is not really that easy to catch. But the move down, you see on the US unemployment, where it went down. It went down again to the same zone from which the bounce started. And this is also something that is in the trading playbook. Extended or fluid move into the opening level. Market often does this kind of moves. When they go sharply from the opening level and then sharply also down into that opening level, you can bet that there's going to be a bounce first, and then we are going to see what next. But this here was a very high odd reaction. It's high odd that it's going to be a bounce here, and it was. Now this is a 5-minute chart. I will show you 15-minute charts as well, because on 15-minute charts this and this also came with significant rejection tail, which should just reinforce your conviction to hold that kind of long, also observing other markets as well. So another bounce there, higher low, and then up they go again. And here, in this part, it is already US RT session. And what this market, which is a leading market, what this market did? They held. Was there any kind of bigger, retrace of the after hours and pre-market ramp? No. Also, market opened here while previous close was here. Was there any inventory correction? No, because inventory correction also comes hand by hand with retracements of that after hours and pre-market ramp, and there was no inventory correction at all. So what's that? That is also a confirmation of strength. Those are the market reads, because market opened here, and was there any kind of down first toward the previous close? No. And the entire market range was above the previous close, meaning net long, and yet there was no inventory correction. So all of that are signs of strength. And at the end, now when they're pushed again higher, since we already had some reaction from these zones, no more selling of the same zones, no more doing that. You just, if you're long, you're aiming toward the all-time high zone, meaning main resistance, and if you are having long, you're aiming toward it, and if you are flat, you are taking a short here and giving the strength and giving the time of the hitting of the main resistance, which is almost 7 p.m. and just take whatever market gives you, just take zone to zone trade, and that's it. Sometimes traders are asking, okay, but I have seen a setups gallery, and in some cases there are huge moves from main resistance, from main zones, and in some cases they are just zone to zone moves. How can I know in advance, for example, what kind of move there's going to be? Sometimes we can think and make good conclusions in advance what kind of moves we could get, but sometimes, especially when the intraday bias is neutral, you need to think about it. When market hit the zone, in this case, when is this happening? What market showed up to that point? Did market did from the open, without inventory correction and without big retrace of the after hours and pre-market ramp, just whoosh, to the upside, exhaustion move directly into the main resistance? Well, in that case, likely there would be a better reaction there, because everybody would fade that kind of early move, and everybody would take profit. They're thinking about probably about another attempt to go higher. If there would be an early false breakout about main resistance, that could completely change the tone of the day. So all of that to have in mind when we are speaking about reactions and how big they can be also bias can dictate that. If large time frame bias is neutral bullish, and if market already made double top there, so this is not a zone which was made, you know, as some spike and that's all-time high. We already had the spike there and the market already reacted from there. Now they're coming there for, you know, the second time. So what would be the better idea here to fade then? Do you really expect the market to make triple top on daily chart? Or if any bigger downside from the all-time high is you know, in the books, so to speak, that could be something like this: poke above to at least, you know, pick some stops and then to go down. The point is, if all time frames are pointing higher, when we had large time frame upside alignment, then on V reversals or flushes down into S1, S2, main supports, good supports, origin of the NFP moves, that's the time to expect a bigger reaction, because everything is pointing to the upside, and you need to be on those dips no matter how scary they are looking. While any short here is basically counter trend trade, main resistance fade included, and therefore, especially if it happens in the after hours, take this, you know, whatever that is, 40 points, okay, 40 points, close, and that's it. Okay, so that would be it for this edition of DAX recap videos. The thing which is left for us to observe would be where futures close and where will S&P close. What's going to happen with here, with this? Are we going to get a 6-day balance? Are they going to close inside this range, or they're going to close, you know, strongly above it and maybe even touch daily 200 later in the session? What's going to happen here? That would be it. I hope that you got some of these moves, especially these dips early in the session. Then this was also pretty early, 10:30, 10:40. Later to go long again from the open zone and pre-market midpoint. And basically that would be it regarding our opportunities, since this here was good just for a 1 hour trade. I wish you a pleasant evening and good trading.